Welcome to 2026, Sagittarius. This is the Philosopher's homecoming. 2026 for Sagittarians is the year you come home. It's a big year. You're not coming back just to the physical place, but to your philosophical truth. Jupiter is your ruling planet. You start the year off with it moving in your 8th house of shared resources. Later in the year it moves, and we'll talk about that in a while, but January to February is all about your roots, your resources, and the creative awakening. You've got your karmic planet, the North Node, moving through this 4th house of your horoscope. That relates to your family, your domestic situation, the emotional foundation of your life. And this is the time when a lot of those karmas that have been unresolved can come to the surface to finally be dealt with. You need to stop sacrificing your emotional needs for professional advancement. Stop using career achievement as a substitute for your emotional security. The South Node is moving through the 10th house. This shows that you're reevaluating your past, the skills that you've had in the past, the desire for a specific type of work in the past may now be changing. The North Node in Pisces calls you towards creating a more fulfilling domestic situation so that you're not reliant on this career mode that's probably not aligned with who you've become. Jupiter transiting in that 8th house, as I mentioned, indicates money from other people. Sometimes there's an inheritance, money that can come to you, money you've waited on, legacies, dividends, lump sums, or people repaying loans that you advanced them previously. This is also a zone of shared emotional resources and intimacy. So this part of your life should in fact give you great satisfaction. On January 26th, Neptune enters Aries and begins a 14-year transit through your 5th house of creativity, romance, and self-expression. The inner artist in you, the inner child, wakes up. Neptune in your creativity sector means you can start to express the deeper, more mystical components of your creative self. You might discover talents that you weren't even quite aware of, such as painting, music, dancing will turn you on, poetry, or you just might find some existing creative outlets become infused with a whole lot of different meaning. For romance, Neptune brings with it some sort of idealism that you have to be careful of. You don't want to put anyone on a pedestal at this time until you ensure that you understand them deeply. Looks can be deceiving. Saturn marches into Aries on February 13, and your creative life also gets a serious structure after this time. It's in your 5th house for the next couple of years. So it means you're going to be more responsible about those mystical creative elements we talked about a little bit earlier. Also, if you're looking at romance, you might find yourself becoming more serious than you had at first expected to be. It could take you by surprise. The Saturn-Neptune combination in this area means you're at a creative crossroads. This happens once every 36 years. And so now, whatever you are going to give your heart to, this has some staying power. You're going to be into that for the long haul. Now, in March to May, there's a career release and some sort of partnership connection here. There's a total lunar eclipse in Virgo on March 3rd. That falls in your career sector, along with that past karma point mentioned earlier as well. This is about reaching a completion, going past that crisis point. And so now perhaps a job, a professional identity you've been clinging to can be set aside for something more fulfilling. This eclipse releases the need for the perfect career trajectory. You'll find that rather than doing something that you've been robotically good at, You might have to take a gamble and do something you love, even if you're not as good as you'd like to be. That takes time. Jupiter continues its deep dive through your 8th house, and then the shared resources that you've had with others requires even more trust, because this is where some transformation is likely to happen. Lesson of sharing and the lesson of not trusting too easily fall under the umbrella of Jupiter's transit here. There's a spring equinox on March 20. Again, this could show a bit of professional uncertainty, but when Uranus enters Gemini on April 25th into the 7th house of your horoscope, then your relationships are due for a big shake-up. Uranus in this place brings the unexpected into your relationships. You might meet someone suddenly, someone that can change your life completely. Progressive, this could be a younger person or someone with a younger mentality. You might also want to experiment with non-traditional arrangements in your relationships. And if you're currently involved with someone, this could be the time you think, hey, let's try something a little bit different. June to July is the homecoming. Jupiter enters Leo on June 30, and this is massive for you. Moving into the 9th house, this rules your native territory. This is the domain of philosophy, higher learning, travels, and deeper meaning. For the next year, your ruling planet is in this sector, and this is more or less going to define your life. This is what we're talking about, your homecoming. Your mind expands exponentially. You've got a real hunger for knowledge, and even though you may not take on some formal sort of education, you might find yourself reading a lot more books in this period. On July 26th, the North Node enters Aquarius, which is the 3rd house of communication in the sign of Pisces. So you've got a desire to make an impression on others, especially with Pluto also in this area. For the next 18 months, mastering communication is the fuel for your spiritual advancement. You can learn practical skills, and this 3rd house has something to say about your valor, your courage to go for something that you've been wanting to but have been afraid to. Try it. If you ask, the worst that can happen is that someone says no. Jupiter's meaning in this 9th house is to expand and travel. The South Node says, yeah, do that, but better not get lost up there. Stay grounded in reality as well. In August, we've got some amazing astrological activity. We've got a solar eclipse, again in that 3rd house we've just been talking about, that's going to activate this new communication trajectory we're talking about. Learning adventures, connections with siblings, because the 3rd house rules that, are all under the auspices of this annular solar eclipse. There's also a total solar eclipse in the 9th house. Again, these are patterns that seem to be accentuated by each of these astrological factors. The total solar eclipse in your 9th house, that's a big initiation into a higher echelon of knowledge. Again, I'm going to remind you, having all this knowledge means you need to balance it with practical reality. There's also a lunar eclipse, a partial lunar eclipse in Pisces, that 4th house, your domestic sphere, on August 28, which brings greater attention and karmic influences to your home and family. You'll be releasing some childhood wounds at this time, getting into the nitty-gritty of your past and what it was that shaped you into being who you are. In the final quarter, September to December, there's integration and practical wisdom. Uranus in Gemini will revolutionize your partnerships. Your relationships are becoming more experimental, freer, more open. You'll attract partners who value freedom as much as you do. Saturn and Neptune continue their dance in your 5th house. That's going to be, I guess, a control mechanism on this revolutionary Uranus in your marital sector. This is going to give it structure, even if it is a little bit out there, if I could put it that way. If you're in a romantic relationship, Saturn will make it a little more serious. Not in a heavy way, but I can see more commitment coming your way in the latter part of 2026. I touched on Pluto earlier, again in your third house, transforming the way you think, the way you communicate, and the way you process information. When the year is completed, you will have achieved a whole lot of new insight, especially through the way you think, the way you study, and your desire to try different things in your relationships and friendships. So the ultimate message this year is that your homecoming is wrapped in a grounding mandate. First half focuses on establishing your emotional roots, and then your ruling planet blesses you with deep intimacy lessons in your 8th house before returning home to its 9th position in late June. The second half is going to explode your mind and your worldview. You may have a shift in your political opinions at this time. Your challenge is integrating expansion with embodiment. Allow yourself to travel, to study, explore different belief systems, but don't be afraid to question everything you're studying. That's imperative. Stay present enough to communicate what you're learning, but remain open. This year, you're going to be finding new landscapes. And so part of the difficulty, the end of this year, moving into the year after, is to choose one of these. Don't spread yourself too thin. You're becoming a bridge that's going to bring truth from the mountaintop into the valley where people actually live. You are a bridge right now. Recognize also that you don't necessarily have to travel far and wide to find the meaning you've been looking for in your life. Do take care. I'm going to be here every month doing the monthlies. I hope you'll join me again. Again, have a safe and happy and a prosperous new year. Best wishes. Bye-bye.